At dinner, my dad announced, "Your niece are the only ones who'll make something of themselves, not like your boy." Everyone laughed. But my 8-year-old boy didn't. I just replied, "Cool, then I'll stop paying her $1,600 tuition." My sister froze. My dad gripped my arm and whispered, "Please, not here." And then It was supposed to be a family dinner. Just a calm Sunday night at my parents' house, celebrating my mom's birthday. I baked a carrot cake. Eli carried it proudly into the kitchen when we arrived, and I remember thinking maybe it would be okay. Just a few hours, smile through it, keep the peace. My sister Erin was already there, sitting like she always does, the favorite at the head of the table even when it's not her house. Her daughter Ava sat beside her in some frilly dress with pearls on it. She's 9 and already has a calendar more packed than a politician. Ballet, violin, soccer. Some coding class now too. It never ends. Eli's 8. He likes to draw monsters. He loves learning about sharks and volcanoes. He's curious in a quiet way. And maybe that's not something you can show off at a dinner party, but I see the way he thinks, the way his brain works. He's my entire world. Dinner started like usual. My mom talking about her neighbors. Erin bragging about Ava's last recital, how her instructor said she's gifted, how they're thinking about getting her a private coach. I nodded through it. Didn't say much. I've gotten used to it. The way they all act like Erin's daughter is royalty and mine's just tagging along in the background. But then my dad raised his glass. He started slow, thanking us for coming, saying how proud he is of all of us. Then he turned to Ava and gave her that look, like she's the second coming of Einstein and Misty Copeland rolled into one. He said, "Your nieces are the only ones who'll actually make something of themselves." He looked straight at me. "Not like your boy." Everyone laughed. Not awkward, not unsure. Loud. Real laughter. Erin cackled. My mom didn't even blink. Ava giggled like she didn't get it but laughed anyway. Eli looked up at me. I'll never forget that. He didn't cry. He didn't say anything. But his eyes changed. That's the only way I can put it. They changed. I set down my fork. Looked at my dad. "Cool," I said. "Then I'll stop paying her $1,600 tuition." It went dead quiet. Just like that. You could hear the clock ticking behind the fridge. Erin blinked like she didn't hear me right. My mom opened her mouth, then shut it again. My dad leaned toward me and gripped my arm. I didn't look at him, but I heard him whisper, "Please, not here." So I said nothing. Erin leaned back and gave me this half smile. "Shh, come on. It's not about the money. It's about raising kids to actually do something. Ava has drive. Your son just kind of floats around." I could feel my heartbeat in my jaw. I looked at Eli again. He was staring at the napkin in his lap like he wished it could swallow him whole. I stood up. "We're leaving," I said. Eli got up without a word. As I turned, I heard my mom mutter, "There she goes again. Always so dramatic." Erin laughed. We left the gift on the table. I didn't say goodbye. We walked out and didn't look back. That night, Eli crawled into my bed after midnight. He whispered, "Am I weird because I don't like sports?" I told him no. I told him he's amazing. And I meant it. The next morning, I logged into the school's payment portal and canceled the recurring tuition transfer. I didn't say a word to anyone. Not my sister. Not my parents. They didn't call. Didn't even message. Not yet. But they would. And when they did, it wouldn't be to apologize. It would be to panic. The first couple of days after the dinner were quiet. Too quiet. No sarcastic text from Erin. No passive-aggressive call from my mom. Not even a cryptic forwarded Bible quote from my dad, which is usually his way of trying to guilt me. It was like they'd all decided to go silent at once. But I knew that silence wasn't peace. It was build-up. The tuition was due Thursday. I'd been paying it every month like clockwork for over a year. $1,600 for Ava's fancy private school, plus random extras Erin would Venmo request like I was a walking wallet. It was never officially my responsibility, but somehow after Erin's husband got laid off I offered to help and they just never stopped letting me. Thursday passed. Nothing came out of my account. No frantic text. No awkward thank you. Just the kind of quiet you only get when someone's waiting to see if you're bluffing. I wasn't. Friday morning I was packing Eli's lunch when my phone buzzed. It was Erin. "Hey, think the school messed up Ava's tuition. They're saying it didn't go through?" I left her on read. Finished cutting Eli's apple slices. Got him to school. Then finally replied hours later. "Nope. I canceled it." 3 minutes passed. Then her next message came in. "You're joking, right? Because of what Dad said." That was obviously just teasing. I didn't respond. 10 minutes later, another message. "You're seriously punishing a child over a dumb joke? Grow up." By lunch I had 5 missed calls from her, 2 from my mom and 1 from my dad. which I knew was serious because he never calls unless something's actually broken or dead. Then came the message from my mom, short and guilt-drenched. Can we talk? You know Ava's schooling matters. Aaron's going through a lot. That one almost made me laugh. Aaron going through a lot is code for Aaron spent too much on yoga retreats again. And as usual, I was expected to plug the financial hole with 0 questions asked. By 5 p.m., my mom was at my door with a bag of groceries she pretended was for me, though it was mostly junk Eli doesn't even eat. I let her in. She sat down like it was a casual visit, then jumped right into it. She said I was being petty. That Ava shouldn't suffer because I felt insulted. That this kind of grudge wasn't healthy. Then came the part that really got me. Let's be honest, Ash. You're not struggling. You have a good job. No mortgage. No husband. No one to support but yourself and Eli. Aaron's raising 2 kids. And you know Ava's gifted, she needs this school. I asked her one thing. Why is it always me paying for the things she needs? She blinked, then gave me that look like she pitied me for not understanding how families work. When she left, she kissed Eli on the head, didn't look at me, and said, I hope you come to your senses. Before you make things worse. That night my dad called. I picked up. He didn't yell. He didn't sound angry. That made it worse. He said I was being disrespectful. That I was letting a childish moment ruin family ties. He used the word vindictive. Said Eli would grow up watching me alienate the people closest to us, and that I was setting the wrong example. I asked him if he really thought what he said at dinner was harmless. He paused. Then said, it was a joke. If you can't handle a little teasing, maybe you're not as tough as you think. I hung up. Saturday passed. Sunday came and went. Nothing. But I knew this wasn't over. Then Monday morning a text came in. From my dad. We're stopping by tomorrow. Just to clear the air. I stared at the screen. Something felt off. Like they weren't coming to clear the air at all. Like something else was brewing. I told them sure. And I made sure every room in the house was clean and every cabinet was closed. I didn't know why. Not yet. They pulled into my driveway right on time. 10 a.m. on the dot. Like this was a meeting they'd rehearsed for. My dad got out first, arms crossed like he was bracing for a fight he didn't want to admit he started. My mom followed behind, carrying a pie wrapped in foil and acting like everything was fine. I watched them from the window before opening the door. We didn't even make it to the kitchen. They headed straight for the living room, sat down like they lived there, and I stood across from them, arms folded. My mom did most of the talking. She always does when they're trying to play good cop, bad cop. She started with how they just wanted to check in. How the last week's been hard on everyone. How Aaron was emotional and didn't mean everything she said. How Ava's been feeling confused about why she suddenly might not get to go to school anymore. I just nodded. I didn't say much. I didn't need to. I'd heard this exact song and dance before. It was always about feelings, never about actions. Always about making me the problem for reacting. Never about what they said or did to push me there. Then my mom slipped in the line she'd clearly been holding on to. She's just a child, Ash. You're punishing a 9-year-old because you were embarrassed at dinner. That's not who you are. I stared at her for a second. Then said, I'm not punishing anyone. I'm just not paying anymore. My dad finally spoke. This is your family. You don't walk away from family. You help when you're needed. I asked, do you think mocking my son in front of everyone was help? He didn't answer. He just shifted in his seat and looked past me like this was beneath him now. I guess they realized they weren't going to get a yes out of me because the tone shifted quickly after that. My mom asked to heat up the pie in the kitchen, said she brought whipped cream too, for Eli. I told her fine, and she went off with a smile like she just scored a point. A minute later my dad stood up and said he needed the bathroom. I pointed him toward the hallway without a word and sat down, not really thinking much of it at the time. A few minutes passed. Then something clicked. The bathroom light hadn't turned on. The door wasn't closed. I stood up and walked down the hall. He wasn't in the bathroom. He was in my bedroom. My dresser drawer was open. He was holding the envelope I kept hidden beneath a stack of old t-shirts. Emergency cash. About $1,000. I'd been saving it quietly for months in case something went wrong with the car or Eli needed something I couldn't cover right away. I stood in the doorway. He froze. Didn't say anything. Just looked at the envelope in his hand, then at me. Then he put it back slowly and stepped around me like nothing had happened. I followed him out. My mom was still in the kitchen, standing near the stove, pie untouched. She looked at both of us and I realized she already knew. Of course she did. This was coordinated. A distraction and a search. I told them both to leave. They didn't argue. My dad grabbed his keys. My mom didn't even say goodbye. I locked the door behind them. Then I sat on the floor in the hallway and just stared at the carpet for a long time. It wasn't about the money. Not really. It was about what it meant. That they saw what I had, even what I might have hidden, as something they were entitled to. That they'd cross a line like that with zero shame just to squeeze a little more out of me. Because I was the one who could afford it. Because I was the one who'd always been there to catch Erin when she fell. That night I texted Erin. Figure it out. I'm done. She wrote back less than a minute later. Unbelievable. You are seriously going to let a child suffer just to prove a point? Over a joke? I've always known you were jealous, but this is a new low. I didn't respond. Instead, I walked into Eli's room. He was asleep, tangled in his blanket, one hand resting on his open notebook. Sharks again. He'd drawn a great white with a speech bubble coming out of its mouth. Inside it said, "Don't mess with my mom." I sat down on the edge of his bed and made him a promise, right there in the dark. I wouldn't let them touch one more part of our life. Not through guilt. Not through shame. Not through sneak attacks or fake visits. Let them figure out their perfect little golden granddaughter's tuition without me. If they wanted someone to throw money at her future, they could open their own wallets. Because mine closed. I didn't plan it. I woke up that morning, made Eli his breakfast, packed his lunch, and was halfway through folding laundry when something in me just clicked. Like I suddenly needed to get the weight off my chest. Not later, not eventually, but now. So I got in the car and drove to my parents' house. I didn't text, didn't call. I knew Erin wouldn't be there. Tuesdays were always Ava's soccer practice and tutoring combo, the ones I used to fund without even thinking about it. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was finally going to the place where all the guilt had grown roots, and she'd be off kicking balls and practicing vocabulary words I probably paid for last semester. My mom opened the door and acted like I was a surprise visitor dropping by for tea. She said, "Well, look who finally came to her senses." I walked right past her without a word and into the kitchen. My dad was at the table drinking coffee and scrolling his iPad. He didn't look up, just said, "Took you long enough. Sit. Let's get past all this." I stayed standing. "I'm here for my spare keys." That made him look up. My mom from behind made this little noise, a mix of disappointment and disbelief, like I'd just kicked a puppy. "You can't be serious," she said. "Ashley, don't be dramatic." I turned and looked at her. "Where are they?" She blinked, then crossed her arms and just stood there. She didn't want to give them to me. But she didn't argue long. A few seconds passed and she sighed, disappeared into the hallway, and came back with a small ceramic dish, the kind she used to keep peppermints in. Inside were the keys. My keys. The front door, the garage remote, even that spare gate key I barely remembered giving them. I took them. "I don't want you letting yourselves in anymore. Not for surprises. Not for favors. Not ever." My dad stood up then. "So that's it? One dinner and you throw away your whole family?" "You didn't just insult my son," I said. "You humiliated him. You laughed in his face. And then, when that didn't get the message across, you came into my home and tried to steal from me. You think we need your little rainy day fund?" He snapped. "That wasn't stealing. I was checking if you had anything to spare. You've always helped." "That's the problem," I said. "It's not helping if I'm expected to give. That's just exploitation." He stared at me like he couldn't believe I was saying it out loud. My mom jumped in then, like she was trying to smooth it over. "You don't have to make this a war, Ashley. You know deep down we've always been proud of you. But Ava, she just shows more effort. She has goals. She's not passive like Eli." I froze. "Like Eli?" I repeated. "I didn't mean it that way. I just meant he doesn't seem interested in anything." "He's 8. Well, Ava's 9. I looked at both of them. "You think I'm doing this because I'm bitter or holding a grudge. But I'm doing this because every time I've tried to protect my kid, you've turned it into a joke." "I'm not joking anymore." My mom stepped forward, voice low. "You're making a mistake. Eli's going to grow up resenting you for cutting us out. You're isolating him. You're raising him to believe he doesn't have a family." I didn't respond to that. I turned and walked toward the door. As I was about to leave, my dad muttered, "You'll regret this. One day you'll come back. You always do." I stopped. "I used to. Not anymore." Then I took the keys, walked out, and didn't look back. Later that night I got a notification. Erin had posted something on Facebook. A vague, whiny status that said, "Some people would rather let a child suffer than let go of their bitterness. Disgusting what jealousy does to a person." I didn't react. But then 10 minutes later I got a text from her. "They told me you took the keys. So this is really what you want? To go full psycho and burn everything down?" Then another. "Enjoy your quiet little life. You'll be forgotten before Ava hits high school." That one sat with me. Not because it hurt, but because I realized that to them, my silence, my boundaries, and even my love for my son, all of it was forgettable if it didn't benefit them. They were right about one thing though. It would be quiet from now on. Because I wasn't answering another text. I wasn't sending another check. And I sure as hell wasn't coming back. After I walked out of their house with my keys, I thought that would be it. I truly did. Not that they'd apologize, I wasn't that naive. But I figured they'd at least back off, lick their wounds, whisper about me behind my back for a few weeks. I thought the message was loud enough. I was done. Done playing their game, done cleaning up after Aaron's choices. Done pretending we were still a family just because we shared DNA. But apparently they weren't done with me. At first it was just noise. Aaron posted another status. Something vague about relatives who sabotage out of jealousy. And my mom sent a couple of texts like nothing had ever happened. Just checking in. Hope Eli's doing well. Followed a day later by, I baked your favorite, want me to bring some by? I said nothing. I let it all sit there, unread, unwanted. Then the calls started coming from numbers I didn't recognize. One of them was the ballet teacher. Another was the school's admin office. Apparently, someone had told them there was an issue with the payment method. They were just checking if I'd be fixing it. I told each of them no. Formally, politely, and on the record, I said I was not responsible for any future payments. They should contact Ava's parents directly. That part felt good. The part that didn't? That came 4 days later. It was a Thursday. I'd worked late and Eli had already eaten and was drawing at the kitchen table. I went into my room to change and noticed my nightstand drawer open. It was only slightly ajar, maybe an inch. But I never leave it open. I always push it shut all the way because Eli once spilled juice inside it and I've been weird about keeping it neat ever since. That was the first red flag. The second was the faint smell. Like someone had worn cheap aftershave. Something my dad wore, always too much of it. I checked the rest of the room, then the hallway, then the door leading into the garage. It was locked. But the bolt was scuffed. Not broken, not forced, just scratched. Then I remembered. I'd had a plumber over the week before and had left the garage side door open while he worked. That same afternoon my dad had come by to drop off a package and acted confused when I wouldn't let him in. I checked the garage camera feed. Like, not just a recording gap, it was completely disconnected. As in, the cord was unplugged from the wall. My stomach dropped. I went back into my bedroom and looked again. Nothing was missing. My emergency cash was still there. But someone had been in the house. And they hadn't come to talk. They hadn't even knocked. They'd come in quietly. Like they'd done it before. Like they believed they still had a right to be there. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed up watching Eli breathe, one hand on the baseball bat I kept near the door, heart racing every time a car passed outside. The next morning I did what I should have done a long time ago. I changed every lock. Front door. Side door. Garage. I paid for a new security system, even upgraded the cameras to ones with cloud backups. Then I called the school ballet studio and tutor again, just to make sure they'd updated their records. I removed my name from everything. Permanently. Then I did something I never thought I'd have to do. I filed a police report. I didn't name names. I just said there had been a possible attempted break-in. I described the situation without assumptions, but I made it clear I was taking it seriously. And when the officer asked if I had any suspicions, I gave him a long look and said, I have some people in mind. That same day I blocked every number I could. My mom. My dad. Aaron. I deleted the old family group chat. I even made sure the school had only my number for Eli. No emergency contacts unless I approved them myself. I took them off the pickup list too. That night as I was putting Eli to bed, he asked me something. Mom, are we mad at Grandma and Grandpa? I paused. We're not mad. We're just keeping our distance. Why? I looked at him. Because they weren't being kind to us. And sometimes even if someone is family, if they keep hurting you, you have to walk away. He nodded like that made perfect sense. Then he said, I think they were always kind of mean to you. And just like that I knew I'd made the right call. The next day I found a letter in my mailbox. No return address, just a printed page inside. If you want to cut us off, fine. But one day you'll need us. And we won't be there. Eli will grow up knowing you pushed away the only real family he had. No name. But I didn't need one. I read it once. Then I set it on fire in my kitchen sink and watched it curl into ash. They had finally made it clear. There was no love there. Only expectation. And control. And manipulation dressed up as tradition. So I did what they weren't expecting. I let them go. Not with a speech. Not with another fight. But quietly, completely, and forever. I didn't feel lighter right away. That's the part no one tells you. Cutting off toxic people even when it's the right thing doesn't come with instant relief. Comes in waves. Some are calm. Others knock the air out of you. There were days when I questioned myself. Wondered if I'd gone too far. Thought about whether Eli would grow up and ask why he barely knew his extended family. But then something small would happen. I'd find a drawing Eli made taped to the fridge, or I'd overhear him telling his friend that his mom was his favorite person in the world. And I'd remember exactly why I'd done it. A few weeks passed. No letters. No emails. No one dropping by. Aaron never apologized. My parents never reached out again. Not even for Eli's birthday, which they used to obsess over mostly for show. They didn't send a card. Didn't even pretend to care. I thought maybe they'd reach out through someone else, like one of the cousins or an old neighbor. But no. It was like I'd been wiped clean from their lives. That should have hurt more than it did. But it didn't hurt. It just proved what I already knew. They only wanted me when I was useful. Eli asked about them less and less. Sometimes he'd bring up Ava, usually when something reminded him of the things we used to do with her. Science kits, art projects, group museum trips. I never talked bad about any of them to him. I just said things change and some people don't stay in your life the way you expect them to. One night, a month after everything, I was tucking him in when he said, "I like our house now." I asked what he meant. "It's quieter. Like nobody's going to come in and be mean to you." That nearly broke me. I sat with him for a long time after he fell asleep. Thought about everything. The years I spent being the helper. The buffer. The one they could lean on without ever asking how heavy it was for me. I thought about the way they talked about Eli like he was a problem, like just being who he was made him less. And I thought about that moment when I caught my dad in my room, fingers wrapped around the envelope like it belonged to him. That was the moment they lost me. All of me. I used to believe families worked like bank accounts. You deposit love, time, loyalty, and you'll eventually get something back. But that's not true. Not if you're the only one depositing and everyone else is withdrawing. No, it's just me and Eli. I've started budgeting better. Not just with money but with my energy. I say no more easily. I don't feel guilty when I set limits. I don't flinch when someone says, family should always come first. Not anymore. Because family isn't just who shares your last name. Family is who shows up for you. Family is who doesn't ask what you can give but gives back. Family is who protects your kid, not ridicules him at the dinner table. They live their life now. I hear things through mutual friends. Apparently, Aaron complains to everyone about how I abandoned Ava. My mom tells people I turned cold after getting some money. My dad? He's mostly quiet. Or so I'm told. Let them talk. Let them lie to each other until they forget the truth. I'm not waiting for their apology anymore. And Eli? He's thriving. He's writing stories, building things, learning chess now. He told me last week he wants to be a marine biologist who also writes books. I told him that sounded perfect. I made him a promise. Quietly to myself but real. He will never again have to sit at a table and feel small because someone who's supposed to love him decides to treat him like a joke. I'll never let anyone close enough to make him feel like that again. Not even blood. We're okay now. We're more than okay.